As has been a repeated theme in this series, we must attempt to disentangle the gospel from politics. However, this suggestion does not mean that Christians themselves should not get involved in politics or be politicians. Clearly, we've had Christian politicians from different political parties from time to time. However, if one does choose to participate in politics, one must be extremely careful when mixing politics and religion, because that could be a potentially toxic mixture, and the two do not necessarily gel well together. So, not surprisingly, a good Christian may not necessarily be a good politician, and a good politician may not necessarily be a good Christian. To be fair, even when the job is not directly related to politics, it's not easy or advisable to mix one's job and one's religion, unless the job actually requires it. For example, if one's job is that of a doctor, one may encounter and treat people of all backgrounds and belief systems. In fact, it's extremely likely that some of those belief systems may contradict one's own. But regardless, one's job is to care for the patient anyway. So, unless one's outward religiosity is going to help the patient, it may not necessarily be a good thing to flaunt one's religiosity. One could, of course, not serve the patient with those opposing belief systems, but this choice would not necessarily be Christian or legal. Take this verse from Colossians 3:23. And whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men. Keeping this in mind, the Christian thing, the right thing, would be to perform one's work, including politics if that is what it is, as if one is serving God, not humanity. In fact, I would say, by aspiring to this higher ideal that is God, one may end up serving humanity better, because even Jesus humbled himself to serve humanity. Was it not Jesus, after all, who said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind"? This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Keeping also in mind the general Christian understanding that Christians may be in the world but not of the world, and Jesus' own acknowledgement of the same when he said, "They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world." We should keep in mind that a healthy approach to politics would be to participate in a way that ultimately serves and honors God, even though politics by itself does not necessarily honor God. Remember what John 18:36 says. Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting that I might not be delivered over to the Jews, but my kingdom is not from the world." Yet, even as we recognize that these two worlds are not necessarily compatible, we need to reconcile the two somehow. In Matthew 22:20-21, we read more about Jesus' thoughts about a coin with Caesar's image on it. And he asked them, "Whose image is this? And whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then he said to them, "So give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." Clearly then, the Bible, including Jesus, the Son of God, Lord of all to us Christians, appears to be telling us that we must both strive to be good citizens of whatever country we are citizens or residents of, that is, render unto Caesar, while at the same time respect and honor God's wishes, that is, render unto God. Ultimately, then, we must be careful not to worship any human power or political system, and we must not let our eternal souls be consumed by or lost in politics. Our work should simply be a vehicle by which we serve God. Likewise, politics should simply be a vehicle by which we ultimately serve God. And if we keep God as our goal, our destination, we will be able to serve both Him and our fellow human beings.